This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and it is a snowy Monday here in Pittsburgh. Of course, the Steelers heading into a playoff week following their 19-17 loss on Saturday night to the Cincinnati Bengals. That coupled with the win by the Chargers on Sunday knocks the Steelers down to the number 6 seed. Of course, the Ravens had won earlier in the day as expected against,
a Browns
really Brad Bounds.
Yeah, wow.
Browns. I saw a stat today, according to DVOA, the Browns had the 6th worst offense going back to like 1980, something like that.
For the whole season.
Yeah.
And with a lot of different quarterbacks. Watson was some of the problem, but not the only problem over there.
They had a few games with
Winston
weren't
bad.
that weren't bad,
right.
And then other than that, it was just bad.
They probably would have been last if it wasn't for the Winston era.
Very much.
I mean, those guys they trotted out were terrible. But the Ravens are really good, too. I mean, they wiped the floor with them. Steelers had a tough one. But you're right. It's on to the Ravens. I mean, it's amazing. Like, I did a podcast today, and we hardly talked about any of the games yesterday because there's coach firings, there's playoff stuff. I mean, this league's moving fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And, looking at the game, we will talk about the game.
Of course, right.
On Saturday. I thought there were some good things to take out of that game. I thought there were some not so good things to take out of that game. And, to me, we'll start with the good. I thought the defense kind of stood on its head at times in that game and really against as good an offense as you're going to see in the postseason.
Yeah.
Played well.
Yeah, one of the best offenses in the league. And, if we would have said on Friday, you're going to hold the Bengals 19 points. I don't care how you get there. Whoa, I'll take that 1,000 times. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you whatever you want for that outcome. Now, I know we're starting with good stuff, but I think most of the defense is good stuff. Another slow start, though. I mean, obviously their worst drive of the day was the opening one, and the slow starts on both sides of the ball is problematic. I mean, and it doesn't set a great tone. But really, from that point on, defensively, I thought they made a lot of splash plays. They're big-time guys, made plays. Getting your hands on footballs, sacks, big hits, etc. And they did what, especially you harped on all week was tackled to catch. I mean, their tackling, their fundamental stuff was really strong too, where that was one of their biggest issues the last 3 games. That just weren't fundamentally sound. I think fatigue was an issue. And speaking of fatigue, they were on the field a ton in this game too, and there was a point where I'm like, that's probably about the most the D can do. And that wasn't the case at all. They were strong after the first drive pretty much till the end whistle.
Even on the opening drive, yes, the Bengals went down and scored 12 yards, 9 yards, 16 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 8 yards, 7 yards, 12 yards. That's the way the defense is built to perform.
Right. We even said death by 1,000 paper cuts.
It was a 9-play, 73-yard drive. Like, it wasn't, you're going to give up a 50-yard bomb over the top. Or
Right.
The longest gain that the Bengals had in the game was 19 yards.
I'd say 19 yards.
They didn't give up a 20-yard catch in that game against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep. I mean, part of it, by design, Burrow had 0 deep shots. Never even took a shot. I mean, and I think they might even regret that because it's hard to matriculate the ball down the field as much.
At some point, somebody gets a hand on a ball. Somebody drops one,
right.
A holding call,
exactly.
A sack.
Hit ball, right. And, his line wasn't great. But that first drive, I know everyone wants to blame the coaching staff. How can you not be prepared? I thought Burrow, they put it on the TV after that drive, 2.05 seconds per throw on that drive.
The ball was coming out.
Insanely fast. I mean, insanely fast.
It was catch and throw.
Yeah.
There
was a play, I can't remember where it was in the game, where T.J. Watt was totally unblocked and couldn't get home in time. I mean, that never happens.
As I said against, when they played Mahomes, if he's going to get it out in 2.34 seconds on average.
Because there were some extended that were well over 3.
That didn't happen in this one,
no,
and they still got home. But if they're going to get rid of it that quickly, around 2.25 seconds, you could put Usain Bolt
Yeah.
Get him in his sprinter stance and put him out on the edge, unblocked, and he's not getting to the quarterback in time.
Let alone with a Burrow or a Mahomes that buys time well, too, or even the small shuffling. I mean, that's just really, really high-level quarterbacking, and it's hard to do over the course of 60 minutes, and Burrow wasn't able to do that over 60 minutes. That's A-plus stuff. But that first drive was just, just throwing darts.
If they can do that on Saturday to Lamar Jackson, because here's what you count on when you're doing something like that.
Yeah.
At some point, the quarterback is going to get antsy and say, I got to make a big play.
I know. See, that's a huge thing. Like Allen and Mahomes and Burrow have changed really quickly early in their career. And I don't know where they're getting this information from. But
it's what Brady used to do.
I think it's probably from Brady, because they were all huge big game hunters. Burrow's first 2 years, if you're going to play single high, hey, I'm throwing a bomb to Chase. Mahomes is run around like a lunatic. They didn't take the death by 1,000 paper cuts. Now these guys are. And even Jackson's better at it too. I mean, these guys inherently are so aggressive that they've adapted really early in their careers to, well, just take what gives them. I just want to win.
Yeah, but Jackson not
like those
nearly
guys.
to the degree that those guys are. He still wants to hold the ball in the pocket and look for the big.
He does
the home run ball.
Much higher time to throw than those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at what's happened to the Steelers over the last 4 games, the one outlier is Lamar Jackson.
Absolutely.
Like everybody else was getting rid of the ball in under 2.5 seconds.
Especially Mahomes and Burrow.
He was over 3 in that game against the Steelers.
Yep, and he's still really high in general.
Yeah. So, if you can force Lamar Jackson into that kind of game, and he may be without the guy who helps him move the football the most in that kind of situation.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be a tough test. I mean, we're talking about it all
No doubt.
No question. And he's really gotten good from the pocket overall. But we also saw Minka do a really good number on Andrews, and I've only just started thinking about matchups, but we've seen it just twice pretty recently. And if they don't have Flowers, okay, I'll take my chances if, with that pass rush and the way that they played Burrow, that if they don't have their best wide receiver.
If Nelson Aguilar beats you, so be it.
Yeah, even Bateman, who's playing a lot better, and likely
I would take Porter and put him on Bateman and say, okay, now what do you got?
And so go from there. I think they will.
Yeah,
I think they will. Again, I haven't really started thinking about strategy of that, but I just thought Minka Andrews, and then you saying Porter Bateman makes a lot of sense.
Because he's a bigger receiver, and
he's going to be the
one. He's the downfield guy, and he's the one. I mean, if you look at what happened after they lost Flowers, I mean, Bateman had 7 catches or whatever in that game.
He's had a good year.
Yeah, I would take that and do that. We also saw the Steelers get some turnovers in this game.
Yeah.
Ball was on the ground a couple of times. They didn't get all of them, but
originally I was like, can they ever get a trouble? Just bad luck. But no, that's starting. You knew that was going to reverse itself.
So again, if you can play defense like that and get the takeaways, you're going to have a chance to win.
Splash plus consistency on defense.
Yeah.
For 38 minutes. I mean, make it 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a huge key, which I assume brings us to the offense, which isn't as rosy.
Well, and there are a couple other things I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Despite having the ball as much as they did, Cincinnati was 5 of 13 on third downs.
Yeah.
Like, you'll take that. They were 0 for 1 on fourth downs.
And red zone wasn't great.
And the red zone, 1 for 4 in the red zone.
Yep.
Those
money downs.
Those are things that should lead to wins.
Yeah, they should.
Now,
that was winning football on defense.
Yeah. Now, Burrow was 37 of 46. Which, okay, that's a ton of passes, though, to get to 277 yards.
I would say a lot of them are short and quick, and the Steelers were conceding that as well.
I mean, so you can, again, live with that. Cincinnati averaged 4.4 yards per play.
Yeah, that's fine.
You'll
take that all day long. Right.
What is it? Anything under 5 is outstanding.
I think the Steelers are at 5 for the season, which is like 6th worst in the league.
6th best, you mean?
No, Steelers offense.
Oh.
To put it in some perspective.
Yeah.
If you're under 5, it's
but defensively, they're what? They were like 5.3 or something like that.
I don't know off the top of my head, but also about 6th best.
Yeah. So I mean, anything under 5 is you're cooking.
It's pretty rare. Yeah,
especially against that particular offense. It had been red hot.
Yes.
Like, as much as Burrow had 8 consecutive games with at least 250 plus passing yards and 3 touchdown passes.
3 touchdowns, all snaps.
And you broke that.
Yep. Absolutely. And Yeah, they lost Higgins for a while, and they didn't have
They
Chase
didn't lose
Brown.
Higgins until late in the third quarter.
I know, I'm saying, but he was there for most of the game. Gesicki, they didn't kill him. Chase didn't kill him, and
Yeah, you take. I mean, 9.6 per catch for Chase.
yeah, I've heard a lot of people have asked me about Trice's performance in this game, and I know if you even the next gen stats will tell you, boy, Chase did a number on Trice. I'm like, yeah. It's
Jamar Chase.
It's still a below average game for Jamar Chase,
Yeah.
who just won the Triple Crown. He's
Yeah.
like the best player on the planet right
He
now.
didn't. It wasn't 10 catches for 372 yards and
Right.
4 touchdowns. That's what he did to the Ravens earlier this year.
Trice was physical. He was, combated catches. I mean,
Tackled
the
the
offense
catch.
makes plays too, and gets, he came up and played plays against the run. I was really encouraged with Trice, and I thought they could have helped him more.
Yeah.
I thought sometimes they left him on an island, and okay, you only gave up an 8-yard catch there. Fine. It's Jamar Chase.
It's Jamar Chase. He
Yeah,
might be
yeah.
the best wide receiver in the league.
Right. That's as hard a test as you can have.
Yeah.
You know, I thought he played really well.
Yeah, I talked to him after the game, and you could tell, like he said, I said, how did you come out of that? Did you feel, like you did a pretty good job? Because I thought it was pretty good, but there are still some things I can work on. I can play the ball better in the air.
That's a good point, because there was some catch point stuff that Chase just wins.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And
I
Trice
think
hasn't
as he
done that at this level
continues,
a lot.
he just hadn't had enough experience.
Right. In a real NFL stadium against Burrow and Chase.
That was the biggest test that you can throw a guy into and say, okay, here you go,
passed
swim.
the flying colors.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind at all if he's starting this upcoming game.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll talk about that later in the game or in the show here. Now, offensively,
it's worrisome.
Here was my biggest issue in that. So when the Steelers beat the Bengals in Cincinnati, they came out and were in attack mode right away.
Yep.
They went into getting the ball back at the 2-minute or inside of 2 minutes, and Russell Wilson had attempted 4 passes. 4.
Oh, you're talking about going into the half.
Going into the half.
Right.
He threw some passes at the end of it and got up to 8 pass attempts at the half.
And it was so successful the first time around.
It was so successful. Now, they had success on their 3rd or 4th drive running the football.
Yes. They a good drive, yeah.
But it was all keyed by the 25-yard completion to Mike Williams down the sideline.
Exactly.
On 3rd down.
Yeah.
Because the Bengals were loading the box and saying, you're not going to run the ball against us. And they weren't going to allow the checkdowns that we talked about last week necessarily.
Right. And they did have one good passing drive where they were in hurry up in the second half.
Yeah.
It was there, I guess is my point.
Right.
So I felt that was short-sighted or just a mistake by the coaching staff. And a lot of that's Monday morning quarterback.
But Wilson said after the game, he's like, we wanted to establish our phicality at the line of scrimmage.
Which I thought was absolutely clear. I'm sure they went into that game.
They might as well have big signs out there
Yes.
that said, we think we're the more physical football team.
Right. I'm sure priority one in prepping for Bengals was we're going to win time of possession because we're getting murdered in time of possession for 3 games. We're going to be the most physical team. We're going to get a running game going leading into the playoffs. We're going to land body blow after body blow in the first half, and then those runs will turn into 8-yard runs in the 4th.
Didn't have the ball long enough to do it.
And in the end, it didn't work.
Yeah.
That failed. Because you ended up with 22 minutes of time of possession, and the run game wasn't great. And I forget what number it was, but it was deep into the game before they called their first down pass. Every first down was run for a long stretch. And I know what they were trying to do. Najee was out there instead of Warren. I know that you know that I know that you know, but it's like, just do what you did last game that worked so well.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, then go back to that. I didn't know why you flipped the coin on that.
Yeah, and maybe it was, hey, we got to try to generate something here. Our first quarter offense hasn't worked the last few weeks.
Opening drives have been bad.
Opening drives, all season long have been an issue. Let's try to establish that running game early and get it going.
And
now,
it flat out just didn't work.
Say that, and they ran the ball on first down on their first play in the game. Then they throw the quick bubble screen to George Pickens.
Yeah.
And he decides to run backwards.
Right, get 0 yards.
Get 0 yards instead of at least getting 3 or 4 to set you up in a manageable 3rd down. And then he just disappeared the rest of the game.
Brutal. Yeah, I mean, there was a long stretch he didn't get a target, and then everyone's bouncing off his hands and left and right. I mean, that's a hard stat line to do. 6 targets, 5 of which probably hit you in the hands.
If he catches the 38-yard pass down the sideline that he dropped, that was a flat-out drop.
Yeah.
Initially,
the other one was a miss.
The last one.
The last one. Right.
He dropped that one.
Yeah.
But if he catches that, they're around the 25-yard line, if not farther down the field, because he might have ran out of a tackle there and scored. They win the football game.
I know.
That's one pass play. Let alone the slant over the middle that he allowed to get knocked free because he didn't tuck it quick enough.
Right.
There was another drop in there. It was just an awful game for George Pickens.
Awful.
And
frankly, I didn't think Austin stepped up. I thought it was one of his worst games too. We don't think he's a 1, but I mean, he kind of came back to earth a little bit. Thank the Lord for Freiermuth. I mean, I know the last play didn't go as we wanted, but I thought he's really come on strong and is making a strong case for, I need to be an 8-target guy every week, if not more, Pickens is so volatile, I don't know what to think. I mean, because we know he's capable of way more than that.
I'm not excusing how Russell Wilson played in the game.
Sure.
It wasn't outstanding. It wasn't high, but he was good enough, I thought, to win that game if he had some help from his receivers.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say at this point of Wilson's career, he's not going to elevate around him like he's Pat Mahomes. I mean, he needs help. They need
you got to catch the football.
You got to catch the football.
Van Jefferson has a third down catch right in front of the Steelers bench, and he's 5 yards beyond the sticks. But instead of coming back to the football, he stands flat-footed and allows the defensive back to come in and break up the pass. Like, no, you're a coach's son.
I say, Daddy, the receivers coach, is probably pulling his hair out right now. Like,
you're not supposed to make those kind of mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not Randy Moss in terms of physical gifts. You need to do all the little things.
Yeah,
without a doubt. So no, he did not get help from a running game or nearly enough for help from his receivers. But I also think Wilson or Dan Moore for that matter. I mean, he's come back to earth in a big way the last month too. But the offense is problematic right now. I mean, I think that there's no way around that. As mentioned, I did a show with Wolf and Rob, and we kept going back to, it wasn't that long ago. It was a month or so ago where this offense was humming pretty good. And it's still the same guys.
Yeah.
And that Bengal defense isn't good. I mean, I don't think you should do way more damage collectively against that group.
You absolutely should, unless you decide that you're going to run into 8-man and 9-man boxes and just say, "Oh, we're gonna be the more physical team here,"
and then drop passes.
And then drop passes on third downs.
Yep. And then you end up with 22 minutes of time possession, and you're not snapping the ball that much to begin with.
Yeah. So I place the blame all the way across the board.
Yeah, coaching all the way down to the guy that played one snap on offense. I mean, there wasn't anyone. Freiermuth, I thought, was good. Some of the line play was okay, but I don't know who's happy with their performance on offense.
Nor should they be.
Right.
It was bad.
I mean, Najee had a few runs, but at the end of the day, he ended up with 30-some yards or something. Nothing. No one was good.
Yeah. Now, he carried him on the touchdown drive in the first half. The play that he got hurt on, where he had, to your point, a couple of runs that was just like should have been nothing, and he's fighting, as he often does.
But
later in the game, they're without both Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, because Jaylen Warren got nicked up he took I think it was a helmet to the hip, and he was out of there for a while. And they got
was on a kickoff return.
No, it was on
because that wasn't clear to me either. That
was on his last
injury,
run.
I didn't know until after the fact.
Yeah, his last run. I think it was in the third quarter.
Okay.
He took a helmet to the hip because that's why Cordell Patterson was then in there.
Because I immediately was like, why is Cordell Patterson in there? Right.
Because I've heard people talking about that. And like, they had to get Cordell Patterson his touches. I'm like, no, that was not what that was about. They hadn't played Cordell Patterson.
I don't think the announcers even mentioned the Warren injury because I learned that after the fact.
I just happened to see it as he was coming off because he got up from the pile and was limping off and then didn't return after that. And I'm like,
us watching on TV weren't aware of that until after the fact.
So it was not about trying to force Cordell Patterson into some touches.
That's all you got.
Jaylen Warren was hurt.
Yeah.
Najee Harris was getting checked for a concussion.
Yeah.
That's what you had.
Yeah, he's your third back, right.
But you also have to know that in that situation. You got a quick turnover. How many times you see teams when they get a quick turnover, you go for the jugular.
Yeah. I mean, you're a deep ball team. You got Pickens, you got Williams, who might deserve some more snaps too. Yeah,
I would definitely get Williams some more work.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one that should hold his head high on a per route basis. Was pretty good.
Yeah, and I think he challenges the defense more.
Yeah, I think he's just harder to play against.
Yeah,
even if he doesn't run as well as he did back in his day or whatever, he's still physical. He's still big.
You're still looking at your 5'11" cornerback matched up on a 6'4" dude that big can high point the ball. Like,
and I don't think you're implying like time to bench Pickens or any of that stuff. I don't think you can do those things. He had a bad game, and I understand he's volatile, but you got to deal with that. You got to manage that and get him back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, not a stellar day for the offense at all against a defense at which, quite frankly, it should have been much better against.
The other thing too is I know that they created a turnover on special teams, and Boz is awesome. But you allowed a couple some starting field position you can't allow, troublesome and you had a fumble.
Fumble.
That's like if you're going to be winning in the margins, that stuff needs to be sharp. And I don't expect them to block a kick every week. No. I mean, that kind of stuff's crazy. I mean, they were on a ridiculous pace early in the year, but the coverage teams are lacking a little bit right now.
Yeah, not the punt return coverage team.
No,
the kickoff returns.
There was 2 or 3 of them that were. That's too good an offense to give them the ball at the 44 or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. Let's get to a break. Matt and I will continue talking about, we'll move on to more.
There's a lot to talk about.
I don't know about pleasant thoughts, but we're going to move on to playoffs. Playoffs.
Yeah, right.
We're going to move on to playoffs, start talking about matchup against the Ravens. What has happened has happened. It is what it is. You can't change anything that's happened there, but you can change the perception of your season if you get a win this weekend in Baltimore. Matt and I will talk about that when we return. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, Steelers, Ravens.
Yeah, yet again.
Saturday, 8 o'clock. Just what I figured.
Yeah.
They didn't even need to wait.
Oh, I knew right away.
I mean, as soon as it was Steelers-Ravens, I'm like, that's going to be the Saturday night game.
They both played Saturday, too. Of course,
that makes it easy.
No doubt. Right. Which, pain in the butt for our purposes, especially you being on the road, but nobody really asked our opinions on the matter.
They don't, say, hey, Dale, when do you want to do this?
Right. What's most convenient for
you?
So
the Steelers will have gone a month without playing a 1 o'clock or a Sunday game, even just a game on a Sunday.
Wow. I guess
it's the longest the team has gone without playing a game on a Sunday since 1933, which happens to be the year they were founded.
Times are a little different back then.
Because Pennsylvania had the blue laws, they couldn't play on Sunday.
What's a blue law?
You couldn't do anything on Sunday.
Oh, okay. You just had to be a good boy. Right.
Yeah, so they would play on Wednesdays or Saturdays or Friday. Like, they couldn't play on. So they've gone a month. It's the longest. 1933 is a long time ago.
Almost 100 years.
Almost 100
Close,
years.
Yeah. So can you remember, I bet the answer is no, COVID aside, a weirder stretch than this?
No.
I mean, 3-11, Christmas, the teams you played, Ravens 3 times in a short stretch.
Saturday again.
Don't play on Sunday.
Yeah.
My mind is befuddled. I mean, it's almost like COVID.
I'm having a tough time keeping track of what day of the week it is.
I did too.
I mean, I really am.
Yeah. So this is kind of a funny story. I do a daily podcast for DK Pittsburgh Sports, and I did my game preview last week a day early, and then I'm like, I got to come up with another. That's supposed to be my last one of the week because I didn't know what day it was. Yeah. I'm like, I did it on Wednesday instead of Thursday or whatever it was, Tuesday instead of Wednesday, and I came back and I did another podcast. I'm like, I'm sorry, folks, but I'm going to talk about something totally off base because I forgot what day it was, and I gave you the preview a day early.
And
right?
People might look at that, outside of what we do, and say, "How does that happen?"
I know,
but you get so immersed in what you're doing.
Yeah,
and we're doing radio shows on a daily basis. I'm at the facility on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Wednesday schedules end up being, Tuesday schedules, and Thursday becomes Wednesday, and
this is another week like that.
In a short work week, everything gets mixed around.
Tuesday's really Wednesday, or Wednesday's really Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then with all the national stuff I do too, there's been so many Christmas and Saturday games and night games and stuff like that too. And like I told my wife, I'm like, she's on top of this stuff, and I'm like, so the good news, hon, is there's no Monday Night Football tonight. And I'm like, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday again, I'm probably gonna be glued to the TV. So, oh great. Probably threw something at me and called me bad words, you know.
Yeah.
But no Monday night, you know.
You didn't hear it.
That doesn't matter.
So this will be the 5th time in their history that the Steelers will have played the Ravens in a playoff game.
Yeah.
But the first time they've done it at M&T Bank Stadium.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize
The other
that.
4 all took place in Pittsburgh. The Steelers 3-1 in those games. They're 10-2 against divisional opponents in the third matchup in their history.
Are they really? I didn't know that. Okay. Guess that adds up. I mean, I know the most recent one against the Ravens didn't go the Steelers' way, but that's their only playoff loss against Baltimore.
Yeah.
You probably know this too, but Wolf mentioned it. They do have a winning record in that stadium too.
Yes.
That Baltimore stadium. Yeah.
Including winning 4 of the last 5 and 6 of the last 8 in Baltimore.
In Baltimore. Okay. So it's not the craziest thing in the world. I mean, one team's playing really, really well, and one team's on a big losing streak. But history shows that the Steelers can win there.
When the Steelers see the purple and the Ravens see the black and gold, you just wipe the slate clean, and it's yeah.
So I was thinking about this from Harbaugh's perspective. Like, man, we've turned things around since our bye. We're playing great. We're playing as well as any team in the league. I'm so happy with my team. And then he goes into the weekend like,
what team don't I want to play in the first round?
I'm either going to get Tomlin or my brother. Like, who knows me better than those two people on the whole planet that's not one of my parents or wife or, you know, like not even football aside. I'm going to get Tomlin or my brother. That evens the playing field. Great. Yeah, just when we're playing as well as we can and have probably the more talented team, all of a sudden I got to deal with that.
And I know people look at the score of the matchup in Baltimore earlier this season, and the Ravens, of course, won that one 34-17. They said, wow, the Ravens blew them out. If you look at the game, it was not a 34-17 game. It was the Steelers on Baltimore's opening drive.
Because think of the details again.
Ravens got the ball first.
Okay.
They start matriculating the ball down the field. Right around the 40-yard line, Alex Highsmith comes up with a sack. Lamar fumbles.
Yeah. Oh, that was a game they couldn't recover.
Ronnie Stanley falls on it. If the Steelers fall on that ball, I'm of the mindset that Lamar Jackson goes, oh, man, here we go again against this team, and goes into a shell again.
So along those lines, I was having this conversation on that other show, you know, that leading into that game, everyone's probably hounding Lamar.
Oh,
you know, why are you so good
against
against 30 teams?
25 times that week.
Over and over and over. And it had to be on his mind, even if he can pretend like it isn't. And he overcame that demon, but it could have, to your point, gone down a different road off the start. Now, this week, you know he's going to hear, why can't you win the playoffs? You know, I mean,
same thing.
It's going to be the same type of thing.
The pressure is on them.
That's what I say. It's all
100%
on him, you know. I mean, he's 2-4 in the playoffs, which really isn't as bad as it looks, trust me. But he's the only multiple MVP winner to not have a Super Bowl. And, you know, I mean, there's just things like that. I mean, it's the legacy stuff, and they're going to be a big favorite. Like, it's going to be on his mind. And Harbaugh's,
no doubt.
Of course.
No doubt. Other things that happened in that game. The Ravens punt after that fumble. It's down at the, the 3-yard line or whatever it was?
Okay. The Steelers started to drive deep in their own end.
Yeah. They were at their own 3. So they run Najee Harris. They get 5-yard run on first down. Great. 3-yard run on second down. All right, now you're in 3rd and 2, and they get called for it's an incomplete pass on 3rd down, 3rd and 2. They punt. Desmond King gets the ball. It's a 58-yard punt, so it was actually a good punt. 58 yards. The Steelers give up a 16-yard return, which might be the longest return they gave up all season.
Yeah, and punt coverage. Your point last segment's really been
James
good.
Pierre forces a fumble on the play.
Yeah.
It bounces 10 yards forward.
Yep.
And Chris Board recovers it at the Pittsburgh 41. So the Ravens get the ball back exactly where they punted from, basically. Yeah, they punted from the 42. They get it back at the 41.
Mm-hmm. Against these offenses,
bing, bing, bing.
you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that was a good play by the special teams unit that couldn't fall on the football,
Couldn't fall on the football. So then, coming out of that one, because, let's remember, Jackson had just fumbled on the previous possession.
Mm-hmm. That's something he's prone to do. He is not throwing picks at all, but he does.
He does fumble. He puts the ball on the ground. What do the Ravens do? They say, okay, we're not going to set Lamar up for that again.
Mm-hmm.
The next the next 5 plays are all Derrick Henry runs.
Which they kind of got away with in the first meeting.
To the Pittsburgh 9, and Lamar throws a touchdown. Finally, he throws, and after that, the
game could have started differently.
It could have started much differently. Let's put it that way. It could have started much differently. The Steelers answered with a touchdown.
Okay. I'm still trying to remember the script of the game.
They got the ball back at the 27. They're 27. Went down the field. You got the completion of Van Jefferson of 21 yards to the Baltimore 6, or the Baltimore 1, I should say. And Russell Wilson throws a 1-yard touchdown pass to Michael Pruitt. Tied the game at 7. Mm-hmm. You answered.
Yeah.
You answered Baltimore's score with one of your own. On the Steelers force a punt.
Okay.
At
this point, it's a very competitive game.
Yeah. On the next possession, the Steelers are driving down the field. They get the ball back at their own 44. They're driving down the field. Wilson breaks the pocket, gets into he's running free.
Mm-hmm.
Sees the end zone, goes for it. Adarius Washington guesses right, forces the fumble. The Steelers would have been up 14-7 in that game.
That was a crucial. Play. Right. And he's not a fumbler. And, that's didn't go your way, to say the least. So my biggest takeaway of reliving that, as you kind of broke down the play-by-play, the 3 fumbles, none went your way.
None. The ball was on the ground 3 times.
Right.
And you recovered none of them.
And
if
Wilson,
you get one of those.
Or if he just slides.
Yeah.
It's probably a different game, let alone if you can recover any of the 3.
I said this at the time. I have no problem with him trying to make a play in that situation.
Right.
He's got one guy to beat.
Yeah.
And the guy, it's like a goalie in soccer.
Mm-hmm.
You get the big net to cover. He had 30 yards of field or 20 yards of field to cover by himself with Adarius Washington.
And he's the smallest defender on the field.
And he guessed right.
Yeah, he did.
He dove to his right as opposed to diving to his left and, made a play.
Wilson needs to hold the ball, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no doubt. No doubt.
That's the crime, not trying to run over the small guy.
And he wasn't trying to run over him. He was trying to run around him.
Yeah.
But the guy got...
And you're sniffing the goal line. It's right there.
Yeah.
I remember not being mad at him or upset or thought it was the wrong decision to not slide. But you got to protect. Fumbling's never okay, The
defense then compounds that mistake by giving up a 96-yard touchdown drive.
Yeah, right.
On which the Ravens never saw a third down until Jackson threw his third down touchdown pass from the 8 or 14. I'm sorry. It was 3rd and 8 from the 14. They finally got the third down and couldn't get off the field.
Yeah,
gave up the touchdown. That's where the game was lost, right there to me.
There's the turning point. Yeah.
Those plays in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now there was obviously the interception after the Lamar Jackson interception in the second half. That just turned things.
But the whole
worse.
script changes after those things too.
If it's 14-7, if you score on that drive and it's 14-7, or it's 14-0 because you recovered either one of those first 2
loose balls. Yeah,
I'm telling you right now, Lamar Jackson, who's been asked 1,000 times in the last 3 years, why do the Steelers have your number? Why can't you play well against the Steelers? It goes back farther than 3 years.
Yeah.
And I've seen his answers time and again. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know.
It's not because of Cam Hayward or because of just like one thing, right?
If that happens,
and the stadium would be totally different, of course.
I mean, if you're up 10-0, you're up 14-0, you're up 14-3, whatever it is. Now, you're taking Derrick Henry out of the game.
Yeah.
Because they'll give up on Derrick Henry. They do it because when they go to third downs, Derrick Henry's not on the field.
No, I remember previewing that game going, I think it was the game before that, Baltimore, and it's like he only played like 50% of the snaps.
Yeah.
There was a couple games like that.
But if you let the Ravens get up on you, you're gonna get a healthy dose of Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and that even before Henry was a Raven. I mean, that was been their specialty of late. They get a big lead, and then they're really hard to come back again.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you look
you can't start slow.
You can't start slow, and you can't on either side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
On either side of the ball. And
this and the Eagles, the two worst teams traditionally, if you start slow against them, forget about it. You know.
And you look at Jackson's overall numbers in the game, and what happened in that game.
He didn't light him up.
No, he was 15 of 23 for 207 yards, which is fine. He had the 3 touchdown passes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you don't want that to happen. But he had an interception. He had 9 carries for 22 yards.
Yeah. As usual, they bottle him up pretty well.
And he lost a fumble, or he had a fumble.
Yeah.
So he had the interception and the fumble. That was a typical kind of Lamar Jackson game against the Steelers, other than the 3 touchdown passes.
The Henry stuff you can't have.
The Henry stuff can't happen.
No.
It can't. You can't allow him to take over the game.
Mm-hmm. And it worries me. I mean, I keep coming back to time possession that I thought it'd be so much better in this past game. But, I mean, there's been 240 minutes of game time over this 4-game losing streak, and the Steelers have had the ball for like 101. It's just slightly over 101. Now, I didn't think they wore down like they did in other games this past week.
They were coming off some rest.
Coming off a rest, and Preston Smith's in there. And, we're going to talk about him later too, but like rotating some dudes, and I think they're better equipped to deal with that now. But it can't be another 38 minutes, type of thing against. I mean, even if Henry's getting 3 yards a carry.
Unless you win a turnover battle like 4-0 or 4-1.
And Tucker can't miss a kick, or
right.
something like that. Can't make a kick or something. And he's gotten a little better, but he's only had like 3 kicks since we saw him last.
If you remember in that game as well, the Steelers actually ran the ball effectively.
Yeah.
Because what Baltimore's now doing, Kyle Hamilton's not at the line of scrimmage anymore.
No.
Kyle Hamilton's playing free safety.
Yeah, they have smaller people near the ball.
Yeah. And so you can run the ball against these guys.
Mm-hmm. It used to be nobody runs against the first time we previewed Steelers-Ravens. Best run defense in the league, worst pass defense in the league. Well, both are the pass defense is light years better. And since we saw them that game, the defense as a whole is much better. But people have run on them. I mean, the run defense is not this impenetrable. That's kind of one of the things they gave up, which was a good deal for them. If they traded 20% of their run defense,
they couldn't continue to allow.
Right. Yeah, and got back 50% of their pass defense. It was a good trade, but their run defense is not impenetrable.
If you look at that game, the Steelers had 198 passing yards. The Ravens had 198 passing yards. Both quarterbacks threw an interception. The difference being the Steelers' interception was returned for a touchdown.
Right.
Easily the worst pass that Russell Wilson has thrown as a Steeler.
Yep.
Shouldn't happen.
I'm sure he'd tell you that. Anyone on the planet would tell you that.
Shouldn't happen. The difference in the game, to me, was Derrick Henry.
100%. But your point's strong that if the game starts differently,
you take Derrick Henry out. You get up 10 points on them.
I don't know if you ever take them out, but I mean, it's
you see a heck of a lot less of them.
It's not over and over and over and over trying to tackle him. I mean, that's how they're built.
That's what happened the first time in the victory here against the Ravens.
Yeah.
The Steelers forced that early fumble. Now, they were kicking field goals in that game.
Yeah.
They forced Henry to fumble early, and you didn't see as much of him in that game.
No, he's not the third down back.
Right.
I assume that's Mitchell now because it used to be Hill.
Well, Hill should be back this week. Hill was cleared last week, and they decided to sit him again.
Because they didn't give him one more. Okay.
Yeah.
He's kind of valuable to them. He's not a special player, but he's on the field more than you think. Henry's not out there all the time.
No, and so, again, if you can get off to a fast start in this game.
Big. That's been a problem.
Even if it's a fast start defensively.
Yeah.
To where you force them get a 3-and-out early, or even if they get one first down and you force a punt.
Oh, 3-and-outs over and over from both sides would be fine by me.
Yeah.
Slog it up.
Turn this into a rock fight again.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think the Ravens want to play a rock fight.
No, I don't think they're that as much of that type of team as they have.
They want Lamar out there running around and doing Lamar things and, throwing the ball all over the yard.
They're a little lighter and faster on defense now than, physical and nasty, right, which is working, but they're a little bit different constructed.
And I think Flowers being out
is big.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Huge.
It should help you defend Henry.
Yes.
Is the bottom line. Like, of course, they're not just going to eliminate them, like Gary Payton, to knock people out. But if Porter can deal with Bateman and Minka can deal with Andrews a reasonable amount of the time, third downs, it leaves a lot of resources to stop the run.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's where they're at.
It's going to be we're not saying, it's money in the bank.
No.
These guys are really good.
We'll get more into this game as the week goes on.
Yeah.
We're going to get to another break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And, Matt, you mentioned the Preston Smith stuff. And I don't know if that was born because what they were doing was they were putting him out there in some nickel and dime situations and allowing him to be an interior rusher in those situations. I don't know if some of that was because Cam Hayward had the flu.
Which I didn't know until after the game. I don't know if you did. But
no, I didn't know until he mentioned it after the game. You wouldn't have been able to tell by the way he played.
No, he was one of the best players on the field.
But they did kind of limit his snaps a little bit more than usual. And when Cincinnati ran the ball, it was like if Cam Hayward was standing on the sidelines, the Bengals ran the football.
And that's been something all year, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's very I wonder how many rush attempts Hayward faces. I mean, it's a really low percentage.
Yeah.
It's not none, but it's a very low percentage. So watching that game, not knowing the Cam situation, I thought, this is an interesting wrinkle. You're going to put three outside linebackers on the field together. I've always been interested of how you could do that. He's a bigger body.
He's a power player.
Yeah, he's different than Herbig.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that same thing with Herbig, over guards and centers and things. And I thought, well, Burrow's not the easiest guy to get on the ground. You want to be a little more agile.
You don't want him stepping up in the pocket.
You don't want him stepping up in the pocket. Preston's length is impressive. Not that Hayward's isn't. But they also don't have much of a run threat either. If it's 3rd and 5 and they check to a run because Cam's not out there, okay, we'll take that chance against Herbert.
One of the reporters around me, like Herbert's running a lot.
Yeah.
At times in that game, again, when Hayward was on the sideline. And one of the reporters around me is like, boy, he's really being effective. How many yards does he have?
Wasn't much.
He averaged 3.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, right.
You want to keep doing that, have at it.
Yeah, that's a win. I thought the same thing. Like, he's not great. The blocking's
his long
not
run
great.
was 8.
Yeah, there's no explosives.
8.
It's fine. Right. Again, you mentioned the first segment. The longest play they let up all day was 19 yards.
Yeah.
They were on the field for 38 minutes.
Yeah. Again, it was a lot of, Burrow completions and short completions, but the running game didn't kill you.
No.
They converted some stuff on that, but again, at the end of the day, they were 5 of 13 on third downs.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't a super efficient Bengals performance.
No.
The passing game was efficient.
Yeah.
It was explosive.
Yeah.
The run game was kind of neither.
Yeah. But I thought that was interesting.
I wonder if it's here to stay in some capacity. Like, I'm never in favor of Hayward not being on the field,
right.
But you could do it with Cam.
Yeah.
That's not against.
And there were some instances where they did do that.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Benton got his first sack, and he's going to be out there, I think, more on third downs too. I mean,
yeah, that was
he's
a timely first sack too.
Yeah, right. And he's a way better pass rusher. It sounds like, boy, he only has his first sack. He's been a really good pass rusher all year.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's just a big guy that takes. You're coming from the interior. You're getting doubled a lot because you're the nose. Mm-hmm. Even in pass rush situations, but he's going to get there more often to me than Ogunjobi does.
I tend to think so. I didn't think this was a great Ogunjobi game again, and feels he's always one of those doesn't always practice on Wednesday guys. Has had a lot of ailments, and Tim Benz and I often joke that most of his plays come in the first quarter. I think he has problems going. I don't think he's a marathon runner. Let's put it that way. He's a good player. He's a little expensive. I would love to see that be kind of an upgrade in the offseason. And again, he's an asset. He's not bad, but he seems to, late in games, late in the season, be less effective.
Yeah. So, I thought that was a plus.
Yeah.
I thought Trice was a plus.
Me too. People gave Trice a hard time. I thought he had played a really good game. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Porter was really good.
And Porter was, very good as
Whether
well.
it was against Higgins or after Higgins went out.
And, I know Gesicki ended up with, what did he finish with?
It wasn't crazy.
He had 8 for 68 on 10 targets. Again, if that's
your top one of your top receivers, and that's the foundation of your offense, it's not.
Bottom line is right. The Bengals averaged 7.5 yards per catch in that game.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, nothing over the top. Great receivers, great quarterback. Take it. Again, tackling was great.
The tackling was great, and it doesn't hurt that Deshaun Elliott was back. Deshaun Elliott
that's the name I wanted to bring up.
Missed the game against the Ravens the first time around.
Yep.
In fact, the Steelers were without several starters in that game, and that could be something that makes a little bit of a difference in this one.
I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but what kind of injury stuff are we looking at coming out of the game?
The only thing that they had was the Mason McCormick hand fracture that looks like he has a good chance to play this week.
Yeah, I assume they could do some kind of cast. I don't think it'll be like a club.
No,
you're right.
Anderson
would be the obvious replacement.
Yeah, they could go that direction.
I'd like to see McCormick play, but
I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Mason McCormick plays. Tomlin said that he saw Dante Jackson today. The back was feeling much better.
Oh, really?
So you might be at full strength here for this one, which is something you weren't that first summer. You didn't have Ogunjobi. You didn't have.
I think Elliott
has been
really important,
especially against tight ends.
Against tight ends and against the run.
Yeah.
I mean, against Henry, I think he's a glue guy that does everything well.
Yeah.
He's more important than stats would ever indicate.
Yeah. Who else were they missing? Were they missing Jackson in that game too, or was it Porter?
Porter.
Porter was missing.
I think Porter
game.
was out for that.
So you're taking Porter, Elliott, and Ogunjobi out of your defense for that game against the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, it's in better shape now and it's fresher.
Or no, Jackson was already out. And
then
Porter got hurt because Porter missed
the
the entire Kansas City game. He got hurt in game in that one.
That makes sense. That's exactly what happened. And
so,
Jackson was already out.
And Jackson was already out.
Yeah, and you're helping Pierre and those guys. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's pretty clear that Trice is past Pierre on the depth chart.
Yeah.
When Jackson was ruled out, I just sent a tweet out. I'm like, I hope Trice gets a start. I don't know if he will or not. I'm glad he did because I think there's something to build on there.
Yeah. I would agree. Let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale
telling
Lolley.
Stories between,
he is the Matt Williamson, who apparently does not know what this means. It's like 3 times in the last week and a half that you've.
I did it on Madden Show just a half hour ago too. We were talking about English football, and I just kept yapping on, and then we went live, and you gotta know these.
You gotta know these things. Come on, gotta get this stuff right. Anyways, welcome to hour number 2. It is time for a little fantasy football focus here, and of course we put together our DFS lineup.
How did we do?
We scored 136.92 points, which just missed in the contest we were in. Just missed. Being in the money, which is kind of disappointing because we had a
couple good ones we had.
One real big swing and miss. And it was not Russell Wilson, who had 11.52 points. He was only using
he was super cheap.
3.5% of lineups, and we got 11.52 points at him. That was fine.
Yeah, that didn't kill us, right?
Didn't kill us. Bijan Robinson was used in 34.2% of lineups. We got 34.3 points out of him. That's a plus.
Yeah, there were a couple big running back weeks. Gibbs last night, Bijan, expensive guys.
We had Ray Davis in the lineup at $5,200. He got 5.3% ownership, and we got 14.5 points out of him.
Right?
He scored.
Yeah.
So that was solid. The one that killed us was last night's game.
Okay.
The pass catchers in last night's game.
Oh, we hit that one pretty hard because there weren't many to pick from, right?
We had Amon-Ra St. Brown at 7,700. He got us 13.7 points. It was 6 for 77. Wasn't horrible.
But it's not good enough for
not
going
good
all
enough.
in.
Yeah. The big one, Jordan Addison.
Oh, yeah.
1 catch for no yards. At $6,400, he was 22.8% ownership. We got one flipping point out of him.
I forgot we went down that road. Yeah, not great at all.
We finished out of them. We missed being in the money by just under 2 points. One
catch or two.
One catch does it for any yardage. Does it?
So,
and we just didn't get it.
Darnold was
awful.
Was awful. I thought the Vikings offensive staff got out-coached. I mean, the aggressiveness of the Lions was rough. Darnold was missing Jefferson too many times.
This was one of those situations where one coach allowed himself to be talked into doing things that he doesn't normally do by the coach on the other sideline.
Yep.
The Vikings are not a go for it on fourth down team.
Lions are.
Yeah. And two different times the Vikings have the ball inside the 10. Now, you'd like to score touchdowns in those situations.
Of course.
But if they kick the field goals in those situations, instead of coming away with nothing,
and it's super early in the game, too.
They would have been up 15-9 at one point.
Coaches do this a lot, and it's just such human nature.
It's something that Harbaugh does against Tomlin a lot of times.
You know, like, I know I have to score a ton in this game. We're in Detroit, huge game. I'm going to play a little out of my comfort zone, do things we're not as good at. And you end up not getting those 3 points, you know? Right. Yeah. Like, they probably lose anyway.
They probably do, but if it's...
But we have these conversations about Steeler games a lot. It goes a lot different. Yeah. You know, the second quarter, the third quarter isn't the same because the game's close.
It ended up being 31-9. If it was 24-15 or something along those lines before they score that final touchdown, again, you're in the game.
You're in it, and everything changes from that point. It's close. You're still hanging around. You don't get knocked out in the third round.
Right.
Right.
Don't lose the game early.
Mm-hmm.
That was a playoff type game last night.
100%.
You know, both teams knew they were in, but they were playing for the number one. They were playing for a week off.
And the one thing I meant to text you while we were going back and forth in that exchange is, and your quarterback wasn't playing well.
Your quarterback,
if your quarterback was super sharp and was on his game, and okay, maybe we do go for it on 4th and 3 here or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, like, as soon as the first read wasn't there, Darnold was not completing anything. You know, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Not on that night.
He was just struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Olamide Zacchaeus, he had 2 catches for 51 yards with 7.9% ownership. He was $4,500, though. We saved money there so we could spend up in some other spots, and it just didn't work out with those.
They pulled Daniels out of that game. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention.
He had like a thigh bruise or contusion or something like that.
But they didn't pull the other starters out.
No, they didn't. And Zacchaeus actually had his catches after Daniels left.
I was going to say,
but he had 3 targets early.
Okay.
They just didn't connect. But he got a 7.1 points, which wasn't
it's
for a $4,500 player. That's fine.
Yeah.
We had Pat Freiermuth at tight end.
I was going to say, that was good.
$3,900. He got us 22.5 points, 17.5% ownership. Could have had more if he catches that late one.
Right.
And
I don't know if I'd call that a drop or a PBU, by the way. I'm not sure if they even get another playoff if he does catch it.
I don't know either, but I'd like to find out.
Yeah, me too. And I'm sure he's not thrilled with himself. Don't get me wrong. I'm not excusing it, but
it was a good ball.
It was a well-thrown ball.
I thought it was a drop just watching it.
I would have too, but it was not an easy no-brainer.
Not an easy catch, but one that I guarantee you,
drop,
if you ask Pat Freiermuth, he's like, I should have caught that.
Mm-hmm. He was definitely one of the offensive positives, by the way.
Marvin Harrison at 5,500.
Okay.
17.3 points. He had 5 for 63 and a touchdown.
That's how he scored. Yeah.
1.8% ownership.
Wow.
That worked out.
Yeah, I wonder why it was so low.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. And then the Broncos defense against the Chiefs backups at when we spent on that 3,000, 27.
Shutout?
Yeah.
Wow.
27.2% ownership, 5 sacks, no points, 15 points there.
KC had no interest whatsoever.
None.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know if Wentz is good or bad or what, but it didn't matter. They had no interest at all. Right?
Yeah. So 136.92 points was pretty good if we get anything out of Jordan Addison.
Yeah, the Addison one, shocker. He was hot going into that game.
Yeah. When your quarterback's off, he's off.
Yeah, the Vikings offense was not itself.
Let's talk about a little different thing here this week. Let's talk a little fantasy football playoffs.
Okay.
And for those of you,
different structures for this. Yeah.
The most common one is you draft your guys going into the postseason, and then you ride with what you got.
Yeah, you might get a bye in the first round, but you get
points
Chiefs
until your guys
until
your guys eliminated. You got them. So the key to this one is not necessarily taking the number 1 overall seed. It's taking a team that's seeded 2 through 7 that you think is going to at least play 3 games.
Right.
So really, the 2 seed is the team that you most
the home run is if you get someone that plays this weekend and they go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Or at least get you to the championship game, because then you're getting 3 games out of them.
Yeah.
So you want to try to guarantee yourself as many games as possible, particularly at the quarterback position.
So taking a 0 from a Chief or a Lion isn't really the end of the world.
No.
Yeah, right.
So looking at that, I'm looking here at some rankings. They have Josh Allen 1.
Okay. The other format that I like that I've played before is you pick a team every week, but you can't use anyone twice.
Yeah.
So you have to
you got to figure it out. Like, you got to be strategic about it.
You got to be real strategic. Like, don't use any NFC quarterbacks because you don't want to be left with in the Super Bowl and not be able to pick a quarterback because you already used them all and there's only one to pick from.
Or pick teams you think are going to maybe lose, but that quarterback's going to have to throw 1,000 times because they're losing.
Maybe Tampa, you use Baker up this week, something like that. Or this is my only time to use Evans, or whatever.
Yeah, right. They have Lamar number 2.
Allen was 1?
Allen 1, Lamar 2.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts 3. He's not been cleared from concussion protocol
yet.
So
I would be a little concerned.
It's a little dicey.
That.
Jared Goff 4. Patrick Mahomes 5.
Would you rather Mahomes or Goff, though?
Probably Goff. They're going to play all their games indoors.
Yeah.
And
weather's something to worry about, too, for sure.
And I think that
you're talking about January.
If we're looking at this realistically, I think the Lions have a better shot to go to the Super Bowl than the Chiefs.
I think they have a better chance to
There's
win
fewer
the
teams,
championship game.
Fewer teams that they have to.
Right. I agree. I agree with that. I just worried that the Chiefs are turning a corner.
Perhaps.
And their weapons are better than they've been, and Mahomes looks good.
But Detroit's defense is so bad.
Yeah.
That they know going into a game we got to score 30.
Is Goff the NFC quarterback you'd want? I mean, I think I'd want him over Hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they have to play.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to score.
They do.
And they're going to probably end up in some shootouts in the playoffs.
He's in a dome every time.
Yeah.
Going to Philly or
At 6, they have Jaden Daniels.
Boy, he's a fantasy producer.
I mean, you might be getting one game out of him.
So are they favored in the? I haven't looked at the lines other than the Steelers. Do you know if they're favored in Wild Card Weekend?
I doubt it. They're on the road.
They're on the road. Yeah, I bet not.
But he could have 45 points in one game.
He could. And if the thing is, that's not enough.
Yeah. Justin Herbert at 7.
Okay. I mean, now you're getting into the guys that have a hard time.
Yeah.
Putting a couple games together.
Sam Darnold at 8.
I'm sure they're favored. That's not terrible.
Baker Mayfield at 9.
Okay.
Matthew Stafford at 10.
Yeah.
Bo Nix at 11.
Like if this was a DFS format where you had to cut corners, I might consider a Baker or a Darnold so I could go heavy on whoever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Gibbs.
Jordan Love at 12. C.J. Stroud at 13 and Russell Wilson at 14.
I expected Wilson to be 14.
Yeah.
Okay. That basically adds up. But, man, I would definitely want one of those top 3 or 4.
At running back, Saquon Barkley is 1.
Okay. Gibbs 2?
No. James Cook is 2.
He scored a lot of touchdowns, which
is
surprising. I'd rather have Gibbs.
I would, too.
They're thinking you're getting an extra game out of Buffalo.
Yeah. Derrick Henry is 3.
Okay.
Jahmyr Gibbs is 4.
Do we think Montgomery's back? Sounds like there's a chance.
There's a chance. Yeah. I don't know if we'll see.
I mean, Gibbs is good with him.
This is where it kind of goes off kilter here for me in these rankings. J.K. Dobbins is 5.
He's good, and he's kind of the only show in town, but I don't know if they're going to win.
I don't know either, and I don't know that they're going to win 2.
I guess if you win 1, though, as a wild card team, it goes pretty far for these type of things.
Aaron Jones is 6.
I'd have him over Dobbins.
I would, too.
Yeah.
Kyron Williams is 7.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs, 8. Isaiah Pacheco at 9. I would have Isaiah Pacheco.
They'll probably win at least 1.
I would have Isaiah Pacheco at 5.
Yeah. I would say Jones versus Pacheco is a conversation for me.
Yeah.
I do think the Vikings could win a couple.
Joe Mixon is 10. Bucky Irving, 11.
That's not bad either.
No.
I mean, again, if these were all weighted, if you're like putting together a DFS, you had to cut corners somewhere.
Brian Robinson at 12. He has been a non-factor
I know.
For several
and
weeks
Eckler
now.
came back.
And Eckler's back.
At the right time.
Yeah. So I'm not buying that at all.
No, that doesn't excite me at all.
Rashad White, 13. No.
No. I'd have the Steelers guys over him.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt at 14.
I'd have Mixon over him, too.
Yeah. Najee Harris and Jalen Warner at 15 and 16.
Pretty high for Hunt. I assume he's a true backup.
Too high for Hunt.
Yeah.
I think they're going to ride Pacheco now.
Yeah, I would think.
Ray Davis at 17. Craig Reynolds at 18.
It's all about winning games.
Yeah.
I mean, the teams they think are going to play multiple games.
There's a sleeper down here that we're not. This isn't him. Javonte Williams at 19. Jaleel McLaughlin.
I'd take McLaughlin.
Jaleel McLaughlin at 20.
Yeah.
I'd rather have him than, say, Rashad White.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Like, he's the number one, and Buffalo's run defense is a problem.
Mm-hmm. There's a chance they win.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance.
And he catches passes. And,
Right.
You know,
right.
he could have a big game, and they could lose.
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth Gainwell at 21.
What if Barkley gets nicked up at some point? He'd be gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you.
I also think that Harris and Warren are a little bit too low from where they should be.
Probably. I mean, they're assuming they're going to split time and they're not going to win a game.
But I'd rather have them than Kareem Hunt.
Or
Kareem Hunt
White.
may not play.
Like Rashad White's way
Yeah.
too high on that list, too.
Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I'm not impressed.
Wide receiver. Justin Jefferson, number 1.
Like, will we do a DFS lineup this week?
Absolutely.
Like, Eckler excites me. More. Like, I could see him taking over for Robinson. I assume he's going to be cheap. That's my point.
Yeah. We might be able to find.
There's probably other guys, too, but I'm just not in on Robinson.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson's 1.
That makes sense.
A.J. Brown, 2.
I think I agree.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is 3.
Yeah. But all three NFC, someone's not going to be happy.
Right. That's what I'm saying here.
Right.
Mike Evans, 4.
I don't know who my AFC number 1 would be, though.
Well, yeah. It's Terry McLaurin is 5.
Like, you definitely
There's a lot of guys who are going to be 1 and out here.
They're all NFC guys.
Yeah. Puka Nacua is 6.
And they're all great, but most of them you're not going to be happy with.
Right.
Because half of them are going to get eliminated right off the bat.
Lad McConkey is 7.
He's the first one in the AFC.
Devontae Smith is 8.
If Zay Flowers was healthy, would he be ahead of McConkey?
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
Because they have a better chance of advancing the Chargers.
Yeah. Khalil Shakir at 9.
I'd say, who's the best Bill? I guess it's Shakir.
Shakir would be the.
Yeah.
Jordan Addison at 10.
Who's the best Chief?
Apparently they don't know here because of these rankings.
That's why it's weird.
Jameson Williams at 12. I'm sorry, Cortland Sutton at 11.
Okay. He's like McConkey. He's only show in town, but unlikely to get to the second round. Well, less likely.
Jameson Williams at 12.
Been pretty good, but you don't get nothing. You get nothing on him in the first week.
Zay Flowers at 13.
Do we know the extent of his injury? Like, I don't think he's
not
playing
this
Steelers,
week.
but do you think he's there?
Harbaugh said
Harbaugh
said he's day to day, and he could be.
Okay.
So
if they make the
but it's
Super
not
Bowl,
season
he's got a
ending.
chance. Okay, they're not putting him on IR.
DeAndre Hopkins at 14. Not the Chief that I would have taken.
Like, I'd take Pickens over some of these guys.
That's where I'm getting. Like,
yeah.
Pickens doesn't even show up on this list. Do they think the Steelers are going to score no points against the Ravens?
Right. I mean, I know he had a 0 this past week, but no, he would be higher than a lot of those guys.
There's another guy on here that is low on this list that I just don't get, and that's at 15 is Nico Collins.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
I don't know what's spread in that game, but I give him almost a 50% chance of winning.
He's going to have.
If you get 2 games out of Nico, that's a lot of points.
I mean, who did this list? Who is this? This is from USA Today's fantasy. Charles Curtis.
Never heard of him.
Charles, I've never heard of you, and there might be a reason.
Weird list to build. But
there might be a reason for that because I'm not agreeing with this list necessarily. This is.
I'm curious about the tight end zone now that we're going down.
Yeah, I am too. But it does give you an idea of the names here as we talk through this.
Is Laporta 1?
Xavier Worthy is 16. Cooper Kupp 17.
I mean, he's been slow, but they could win a game.
Rashad Bateman is 18.
If Zay's out, that's kind of interesting.
Our first Packer is Jaden Reed at 19. Christian Watson
He's out for the year.
is out he's done for the season.
Yeah.
Romeo Doubs missed the game last week. Like
they're going to be favored. Oh, no, they're not going to be favored in Philly. What am I talking about? But I get it. It's one game and a lot of spread thin.
Amari Cooper at 20.
Is he have an injury too? I think he left the game, or he's never been right since he's been in Buffalo.
Quentin Johnston at 21.
He's been sort of productive.
Jalen McMillan at 22.
He's come on pretty strong.
He can get 1,000 targets on Sunday.
Yeah, since Godwin's injury, he's been pretty good.
Romeo Doubs at 23. And the last receiver ranked here is Marvin Mims. No George Pickens.
Mims has been quite good.
But no George Pickens.
Yeah, him not being on there at all is crazy.
No Hollywood Brown. Are you kidding me?
He would probably be my number one
He
chief.
would be the first Chief that I would take.
Yeah. Yeah, Worthy's come on, and Hopkins is okay, but I would take Brown over.
Dude, come on.
Yeah.
Go to a better list than that.
Yeah, that's not
Nico
great.
Collins at 15?
That's a steal, too. Again, if these were all DFS, we'd be signing up for those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's where the DFS rankings go, sign me up. I'll take Nico Collins.
That's the way I'm looking at it. Like, who's
$6,000 and George Pickens for $6,000? Like, okay.
One of them wins, you get a huge bonus.
Yeah.
So worth it. What's the tight ends? I'm just curious.
Okay, we'll get to that here. Right. Number 1, Travis Kelce.
I think I'd have Laporta over Kelce. I guess come playoff time, they're not going to hold Kelce back.
Yeah. Number 2 is Mark Andrews.
Pretty good, yeah.
3, Sam Laporta.
Okay.
4 is T.J. Hawkinson.
Goddard was back, though.
He's actually got Sam Laporta on this list twice, so Sam Laporta is going to be doubly good. Come on, man. You got to be better than that, USA Today.
Yeah, come on. Who's the editor?
Jeez.
Here?
Right. Dalton Kincaid at 6, or 5, as it were.
I wonder if Goddard was supposed to be there. I would take Goddard over Kincaid.
Goddard is back, yeah.
Is he not on the list?
He is not on the list.
They must have. That should probably be his spot.
Probably. Dalton Kincaid at 6. Zach Ertz at 7. Tucker Kraft at 8.
He's appealing, with another receiver injury.
Yeah. Will Dissly at 9.
Ooh, then you start to.
Tyler Higbee at 10. All the way down at 11 is Pat Freiermuth.
Come on, man. Over those
Pay a
dudes.
little bit of attention here.
Yeah, I'd have him over Rams and the last 2 or 3 you mentioned.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Come on.
Is Cade Otton healthy?
They declared him. He was questionable, and they declared him out.
Yeah.
And then the backup went out and caught another touchdown this week.
A couple weeks ago. I assume he'll be back for this game, though. Otton? I don't know.
I would
I'd
think,
have to look
but
into it, but
don't know. Yeah. Kicker Justin Tucker 1. This isn't 2017. He would not be my number 1. Tyler Bass 2.
I think I'd take the Bills or the Eagles.
I'd take Jake Bates from the Lions.
Yeah, except you got to wait a week.
That's all right. He's going to kick indoors the entire time.
Yeah.
And he's got a big leg. Jake Elliott 4. He's been dicey this year.
Mm-hmm.
Harrison Butker 5.
I had a Butker pretty high.
Cameron Dicker 6. Will Reichard 7. He stinks.
Yeah, so he's bad.
Chase McLaughlin.
They can win games.
Yeah, Chase McLaughlin is 8. Zane Gonzalez 9. Chris Boswell 10.
Even if the Steelers lose, I bet Bos puts up points. It's pretty consistent.
Josh Carty is 11 from the Rams, and 12 is Brandon McManus.
Kickers, I would just want best teams. I don't even care who's good.
And then the defenses are Kansas City, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Detroit, Minnesota, the Chargers, the Rams, the Commanders, Tampa Bay, and Green Bay. The Steelers get no mention there.
They should do a DFS like this and have all those, that prices. And you just have to you got $100,000 to put.
I'm here to tell you right now, and we're going to talk about this in the next segment. To say that the Steelers have no chance to go to Baltimore and win a game when they've won 8 of the last 10 games against the Ravens, including, 5 of the last 7 in Baltimore?
0% chance.
I think there's a better chance of that happening than some of these other teams winning games that have guys ranked much higher. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy, especially because the Steelers, fantasy-wise, it's not like Pickens is competing with T. Higgins. There's one receiver.
He's one.
And Freiermuth's been productive. Boswell's a stud, So there's not as many mouths to feed.
Right.
In the fantasy world.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's going to do it for the fantasy football
like playoff
focus.
fantasy. It's different.
It's fun.
Totally different approach.
Yeah. We'll do our DFS lineup later in the week. He is Matt Williamson, and I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. Matt, we know all 14 teams now that are in the postseason. And Jeff Chadia from the NFL, NFL.com, I should say, has put together his list of ranking all 14 playoff contenders.
Okay.
1 through 14. So I thought we'd take a look at that and decide if this is how we would have them or not.
Okay. I like it. Is this best chance to win the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Let's go from the top on this one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who I'd have won.
He has Buffalo. That's not who I would have.
I don't think I would either. I think the NFC is an easier road. I think getting a bye goes a long way for both those bye teams. I would imagine the Lions get a couple of guys back.
Right. I don't want to play them in their building.
I don't want to go to Kansas City either.
No.
I think I'd take one of the bye teams. That's just such an advantage.
I would too.
Yeah.
And you still
Who
going
would you pick?
I would probably pick Detroit.
Yeah. The Chiefs would be right behind them, though. They'd both be ahead of Buffalo.
They would both be ahead of Buffalo.
Yeah.
At 2, he has Philadelphia.
I think the Eagles have a really good chance to win the Super Bowl. It's just they don't have as easy a path to get there.
And the quarterback is still concussed right now.
What are we doing with Hurts?
It's a little bit of an issue.
I mean, it's only Monday. We haven't talked about that a lot. The injury reports aren't coming out. But if by Wednesday or Thursday this is an issue, I don't know if you beat the Packers.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, Jordan Love also dealing with an issue.
Jaden Daniels also has something. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's a quad contusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's just weird they pulled him out and not any other starter.
Yeah. At 3, he has Kansas City.
Pretty low for back-to-back Super Bowl champs.
Yeah.
In their building with a bye.
4 is Detroit.
My top 2 would be those two.
Yeah.
Just an easier road.
5 is Minnesota.
We knew that the loser last night was going to be
They got a much tougher road.
And I'm not ready. Darnold didn't play well, but I'm not ready to say he's a bust. Let him go. He stinks.
Yeah.
You know,
it was a bad game in a hostile environment. I don't know how much.
I don't think the coaching staff helped him a ton.
I don't know that he's ever been in that kind of environment before either.
And probably not in a game that mattered like that. So I don't think the first 16 games were a fluke, and this one is who he is. I'm not there yet. They could go on a run. They could play Detroit again.
Yeah. 6 is Baltimore.
I think they're a really good team, but they'd be 6.
Okay.
So if they win, they probably have to go to Buffalo.
Yes.
I mean, that's a tough road.
Well, no. They would. They would.
Most likely go to Buffalo.
If they win, they would go to Buffalo.
Yeah, if all the favorites win, home teams win.
7 is Green Bay.
Hurts is out.
But here's the thing. You have the Eagles at 2.
Mm-hmm. And then you would have to go to Detroit.
And you haven't beaten any of those teams all year long.
Yeah.
Including the Eagles.
I don't know who I'd have next, but maybe Tampa. Tampa's kind of a giant killer.
Tampa would be, because Tampa can go in and score with anybody.
Yeah.
Their defense is problematic.
Oh, I know it's bad.
But they can score.
Yeah.
At 8, he has the Chargers. The Chargers can't win this. They can't.
Would you have the Chargers ahead of Houston? I don't think. Chargers just don't have a lot of talent.
I don't love Houston. I don't love the Chargers.
Me neither.
At 9, he has Denver.
I don't see either one. Any of
you
those
got
three.
Buffalo at number 1. Is your
Right.
team that you feel, and you've got the team that they play at number 9?
I'd have Tampa ahead of all those teams. At least they have a home game.
Quite frankly, I would have the Steelers ahead of the Chargers and Broncos.
I can't imagine Denver.
I can create a path that if the Steelers win in Baltimore,
Yeah. Then they likely go to Kansas City.
then they would go to Kansas City.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
I mean, of course they're going to be a big dog, right?
But so would Denver or.
I'm going to say that all these guys have the same path.
They would all go.
They don't just let you walk into the Super Bowl.
The Chargers
right?
and Broncos also would go to Kansas City.
Exactly. And I don't think the division stuff helps them as much as the division stuff helps the AFC North teams this week.
No.
Yeah.
At 10, he has the Rams.
I might have them higher. Veteran quarterback, coach that's been there. Maybe you can magic your way through.
I would most certainly have them ahead of Denver and the Chargers.
Me too.
100%.
We still haven't mentioned Tampa?
No.
Tampa and the Rams, I think, are both
11.
too low.
At 11, he has Tampa.
Okay. I mean, I guess the thought process is only 3 teams in the NFC have any chance, maybe 4, but I don't see it that way.
They could
certainly
certainly win
these other ones. Right?
They could certainly win this week against the Vikings.
Absolutely. And they could go to Detroit and knock someone off. I mean, they could.
It could. They beat them earlier this year.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They did that.
They
because they're a team that can score with that team.
Yeah. They beat good teams. Green Bay doesn't.
12 is Washington.
Washington be last for me. I just think it's too soon.
It's way too soon.
No been there, done it factor.
None.
Right.
None whatsoever.
They would be last for me.
13
and
is
actually Denver has some of that field too.
Yeah.
The rookie quarterbacks.
13 is Houston.
I understand them being that low.
That's a toss-up game though this week.
Right. Their
it's
defense
the same as
is
the
good.
Yeah, right. It's the same as if the Steelers had gone to Houston and stayed in the 5 spot. I would like their chances to win that game, but Houston could win that game.
Houston could definitely win that game. They're semi-rested. I mean, they didn't play, recently. Yeah. I think that's too low for them.
And at 14, he has the Steelers.
I knew they were going to be last. I mean, because they're going in with a losing streak.
But that's to me, that's recency bias.
Mm-hmm. Did you read this? Did you see the stat packet that came, the post-game stat pack
I
that
did,
the
yeah.
NFL put out? Steelers are only the third team in NFL history to go into the playoffs on a 4 or more game losing streak. Now, it's a tiny sample size.
Right.
But the first 2 went 1-1.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean like it's impossible to win.
It's not the end of the world.
Right. It's not like they both lost by 60, right.
And I keep going back to those games. I mean, honestly, they were in each one of those games deep into the ball game, and the first 3 kind of got away from them a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
The only game that I looked at and said, boy, they got completely out, was Kansas City.
The Kansas City game was rough, yeah. But Cincy was very winnable.
It was extremely winnable.
Mm-hmm.
If they win that game, are they suddenly are they 6 spots higher on this list?
What I was going to say is if you pull that one out or comes down to Boswell's leg at the end and he makes it, Freiermuth catches the ball or whatever.
Because everybody's saying, Cincinnati's a team you don't want to see in the playoffs. And the Bengals were saying after the game, nobody wants us in the playoffs because we're red hot. Well, are you red hot? Because you didn't. The Steelers mucked it up pretty good against them and were a play from winning that game.
I wonder what the spread in Baltimore would be if the Steelers found a way to win the other day. And on a list like this, would they be ahead of Houston, Denver, Chargers, and the AFC?
I 100% believe they should be.
And I would say the answer is yes. I mean, just they're on a losing streak that the wheels will come off. It's over.
Yeah.
I think that's the perception. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they go to Baltimore and lose. All right.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I'm not implying like if I set the line, it'd be at 2.5.
No.
I mean, Baltimore's really good.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that game in Cincy the Cincy game could have gone differently.
Sure.
The result.
The game in Baltimore, we went through it earlier in the show, could have gone differently. The game against Philadelphia could have gone differently. If Najee Harris doesn't fumble, you're going in for a tying score at that point, late in the third quarter. There were plays in the Chiefs game to be made. You just didn't make them. Again, I think some of the issues, certainly that plagued the defense, got figured out.
Yeah, I'm
over the bye.
Encouraged with the defense for sure.
I wasn't encouraged by the game plan in the Cincinnati game, but that doesn't mean that they don't figure some things out offensively.
I wasn't encouraged with the execution either. I thought it was poor quarterback play, poor left tackle play, too many drops.
Too many drops,
right.
Too many drops.
And just, yeah.
But I don't think they should be 14 on this list.
I don't either. I
think they're a better football team, ideally, than Houston. I think they're a better football team than Washington. They showed that in
I wonder
Washington.
if we did the exercise, like, who is the best? How many rosters are better? Not how they're playing. Like, who has better football players? They'd be ahead of at least 5 of those teams.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, they're ahead of Washington for me, even. Just in terms of who has a better roster.
Yeah.
I mean, T.J. Watt and Cam, and I mean, Washington, I think, still a year away. Same with the Chargers. Like, both those teams, new coaches. Like, they inherited a lot of roster holes.
Yeah, their defense to me is as dangerous as Tampa Bay's offense.
Yeah. Maybe more.
It can win you a game in the playoffs.
Right.
It can win you 2 games in the playoffs if things fall right.
In terms of dangerous defenses, I would have Philly ahead of them.
Right.
Baltimore? I would not have Buffalo.
I don't know if Baltimore's a dangerous defense. They don't take the ball away necessarily a lot.
Chargers are probably similar. I'd probably have Denver ahead of them. Denver's defense I'm really impressed with.
Yeah.
Detroit's is dangerous. And same with Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, they're dangerous because they're so aggressive, but not Green Bay,
Not Washington.
not Tampa, not Washington, not the Rams. Not Houston. Well, Houston's close. Houston's got a good defense. They got the edge pass rushers.
Not Buffalo.
Not Buffalo. No, they're kind of a hold on for dear life defense.
Yeah.
But
His defense takes the ball away.
yeah, and causes big plays and hits quarterbacks.
Causes fumbles and
Yeah.
hits your quarterback a lot.
I mean, that's definitely their path to winning playoff games.
Yeah.
Is big plays on defense, dangerous defense, and special teams.
And special teams.
Yeah.
If the offense is good enough,
It needs to be better.
it needs to be better than it has been. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
You got to possess the football and be physical, and 3-yard runs and you turn into 6-yard runs in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And Pickens needs to hold on the football, and Wilson needs to be sharper. But these are things we've seen happen.
Right. It's not like we're projecting these
things. This isn't total fiction land.
No.
Right.
So I don't know how you put this list together and say, for example, Philadelphia has the second best chance to go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, and then turn around and say that 7 is Green Bay.
Right.
The best of the wild card teams is Green Bay, who A, didn't beat anybody all season long, and B, plays Philadelphia, your number 2 team on
That's
this
the thing
list.
is you got to start to worry about matchups. Like, I don't have any problem if you're doing a power rank to have Green Bay ahead of Tampa, but I like Tampa's path a lot better.
Right.
I mean, let's go to Philly. Going to Philly's terrible. Terrible. I mean, assuming Hurts is playing.
Yeah.
I mean, going to Philly is one of the worst things that going
Yeah.
in the first round.
Yeah.
That's probably my least favorite place to play in the first round.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to Buffalo. I'd rather go to Baltimore. Yeah.
So
There you have
just
it.
an interesting
Playoffs
list.
will be fun, though.
Playoffs should be fun. Again, you've heard this a dozen times, 100 times over. Like it's a clean slate going into the playoffs. Nothing that mattered. And I thought Mike Tomlin mentioned something interesting today because everybody wanted to bring up. It was brought up to him, and everybody likes to bring up. Well, the Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016. And Tomlin said, "Look, that's not the players in that locker rooms.
Right.
That's
Russell
not on
Wilson
them.
wasn't here. I mean, the starting quarterback wasn't here. Who was here?
3 guys.
Is it 3?
3.
Is it Boz, Cam, and
Boz, Cam, and Watt. No, Watt wasn't even here in 2016.
I don't think Watt was here, right?
But so he's been here since 17. These guys haven't lived through this.
Yeah,
all they know is this particular chance in the playoffs, in the postseason.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, you could bring up things like, remember when Leonard Fournette came up here and ran all over you guys? And they'd be like,
no.
I was in junior high.
Yeah, other than Cam and Boswell wasn't on the field for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Like that's, I mean, yes, Tomlin was here. Yes, the same people owned the team. Yes, we've all been fans that long. But the dude that was in 6th grade doesn't really care about that game.
No, it means nothing to these guys. In the same fashion, and this is why I haven't pounded. The Steelers are 10-2 in games against divisional opponents in the postseason. But what they did in 1978 has no bearing on what happens in this game.
Beat the Oilers. I mean, people listen like, who are the Oilers?
Right. They don't even exist anymore.
Right.
They're the Titans.
Yeah. Remember they beat Dan Pastorini? No, I don't. That doesn't matter anymore. Joe Green's not walking through that door. But I do think there's something to be said for Tomlin or Harbaugh that's done this a million years. When you play a division team a third time, what's different? You know, like we've at least been down this road as a head coach.
And that was something interesting that Tomlin said today, and I want to get to this in the next segment about this will be the third meeting in 9 weeks.
I know.
For these two teams.
Familiarity is crazy.
Like, that doesn't happen often.
No, not at all.
And so I want to talk about that when we return. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday right here on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app and listen there. And you can download, or you can go to YouTube and see our video there. Leave us comments. Please, we didn't lose the games. We haven't lost any of the games. We're just here talking about the games. So let's be a little realistic there. Anyways, Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt mentioned Mike Tomlin talking about playing the Bengals, the Ravens for the third time in 9 weeks. And he said,
I wonder how many times that's happened in history.
I didn't get a chance to look it up.
Yeah.
But it can't have happened much.
I bet by Wednesday you'll know that answer.
Well, it probably might. Yeah.
You'll be texting me in an hour.
But he said, somebody asked him if it makes things more or easier for the coaching staffs.
I'm curious what the answer would have been.
He said, actually, it makes it a little more difficult because now instead of just you know who the players are.
Yeah, I know who Mark Andrews is and what he does, or blah blah blah. Right.
Now it becomes a situation where, okay, what am I going to do, or what are we going to do as a coaching staff to scheme things up differently? Because this is how they did this here.
Mm-hmm.
So now, and we played them twice in the last month and a half, basically. How do you zig when they're trying to zag, or vice versa in this situation? He goes, this is one of the things that you love about being a coach.
Yeah. So as you're saying that, I'm like, let's say they had to play the Bengals next week. You just played them.
Yeah.
And that's happened in history.
Happened before.
That's happened in history. And that would be a really, really condensed version. Well, the Steelers came out running versus the Bengals in Game 2. Came out throwing in Game 1. Well, what do you do? You know, like one worked and one didn't. And the other coach is probably going, well, they're probably going to try throwing again because that worked and running didn't. You know, what do they regret in the most recent meeting? Or, for this one, they have a great history of not letting Lamar beat them on the ground. They hit him a lot. We've talked about that.
But Henry just ran nuts against them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to be like, oh, let's key on the big back a little bit more than we have in the past. I'm just saying those small little things. The Andrews wrinkle with Minka, the Preston Smith thing, that's something we're going to try against the Ravens.
Because that's one thing, the Andrews thing with Minka was something they did in the first meeting.
Without Elliott.
When the second meeting, they couldn't do it because they didn't have Elliott.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I got the wires crossed on that, exactly. And so this one, is Elliott just going to follow Andrews? Right. You put Minka on there. Is Minka going to maybe play some slot? I don't know,
Yeah, so there's going to be something that they come up with here that, because, it's not like a situation where you played somebody in week 2, you played them in week 10, and then you're playing them again.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
that
really
week 2 game you might as well throw away.
Yeah,
I mean, you might not even watch it.
Both completely different teams at the start of the season.
Exactly. I mean,
but now
there's a lot to take from the first meeting.
Yeah,
all these AFC North games in the second half of the season.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. And I don't know who it favors.
I don't either.
Right.
I don't either.
I don't think it's a home team thing. I don't think it's a necessarily more talented thing. It's whatever coordinator rolls the right dice.
Yeah. And, I don't want to say guess is right, but it's kind of some guesswork involved.
There's definitely some guesswork involved. All these things are. I mean, the Steelers were guessing the best path to beating the Bengals was run the ball, run the ball, run the ball.
Yeah.
They guessed wrong. That happens, right?
Yeah.
Looking, guess if you're getting cover 2. Well, we didn't get cover 2.
Right.
Cover 2.
They decided to do this instead. Looking at the opponents for the 2025 season. At home, the Steelers will play Baltimore.
Oh. Wow.
Cincinnati, Cleveland, obviously.
Cool. Right.
Buffalo, Green Bay, Minnesota, Miami, Indianapolis, and Seattle.
Sound like pretty good teams. I mean, they're playing the NFC North.
Yes.
Which is the best division in the league. So that's
yeah. Last year at this time, we would have said the AFC North is the best division in the league.
Obviously,
things
very
change.
Subject to change.
Things
but my
change.
hunch is Buffalo's still pretty good.
Yeah. But you'd rather play them here than up there.
Yeah, 100%.
You'd rather play Minnesota here than up there. You'd rather play Green Bay here than up there.
100%. But I guess that means they're going to Detroit, going to Chicago.
You'd rather play Miami here than there.
especially early.
Hopefully,
yeah, we'll
late
see
in
what
the
time
season.
of year, but right, if it's here, okay.
All right, take the Colts outside. Absolutely.
Seattle's not the greatest place to play either.
No.
I was trying to think of the other. This is the first I've heard any of this. Okay.
The away games: Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, obviously. Chicago, Detroit, New England,
New
the
coach.
Jets,
Right, new coach.
and the Chargers.
Okay. Chargers will be nice. There'll be a lot of Steelers fans.
There'll be a lot of Steeler fans in L.A.
Probably doesn't matter what time of year.
I just wonder which one of those games is going to be in Ireland, because that's going to happen,
think
folks.
one's
I
gonna
think that's
happen.
going to happen.
Would probably be a home game.
It'll be a it'll be a home.
Because you got more
be a home
games
game
this
for the
year.
Steelers.
Yeah. So, will all the overseas games be an AFC home game next year? Because they get one more. Is that how that works?
That I don't know for
If
sure.
you get 9, do they cut
But
it?
probable, yeah.
Probably.
Probably.
'Cause I
So you
would
still have
think
8 at home.
Yeah, I would think that you ding those teams.
Yeah.
That they call it an AFC home game. It doesn't mean it can't be an NFC versus NFC game.
No.
What about the Packers? They have green colors. Like
Last time they went overseas, they played the Vikings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's not. That'd be a better game, like in Norway.
Probably not going to make Seattle go to Ireland.
Yeah,
That's a long trip.
That's asking a lot. Patriots was on the road.
Patriots are on the road.
Won't be a division game.
Could be a division game.
I guess that's not unprecedented, right?
Yeah, they think they did that this year, right? Somebody did that this year.
If anyone, it's probably Jags.
Probably.
Because they play several in London.
They're a bunch of Jags.
A bunch of Jag-offs.
But anyway,
that's interesting, though.
We'll
That's
find
cool.
all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
out. We'll find out, if and when that's announced, if that breaks that way. But
How many new coaches on that list?
well, as
We
of
know New
as of
England.
right now,
I mean, it's subject to change. This is officially Black Monday, but there's going to be a lot more heads rolling in the last 24 hours.
doesn't look like any of the home teams right now, as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly
Jets in New England,
Chicago. Yeah, so three in
for
that
sure.
situation.
Okay.
Cleveland could have a new quarterback.
They have a new coordinator. We know Dorsey got let go, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure there's some new quarterbacks on there too. Jets.
And then if you look at the big time quarterbacks that you play, well, obviously you play Lamar and Burrow.
4,
You play Allen.
5.
You gonna include Darnold in that?
I was gonna say, do you
Or
include
Tua?
Love?
Love.
I would put Love over those two.
And
I wouldn't put Geno. But all those guys are good.
It's not horrible.
No, it's not horrible. I mean,
You're
you
gonna play Herbert on the road, but that's not gonna be
Yeah.
like a road game.
Yeah, it's another big time quarterback. I'd
Yeah.
say though. But I mean, you play 4 no matter what every year.
Right. You know that going in.
Right. But at least they're familiar. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's going to do it for the show today, Matt.
All right.
No fire and brimstone, folks. If you're tuning in to fire everybody, probably not going to hear that on this show. But
no, and I don't think it'll happen either, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyways, that's going to do it for our show. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the Justin Miller hotline and the soundboard, and for Tyler Vittmeyer making sure our video gets out there onto YouTube, I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.